and gentlemen, welcome to Marketing Monday Wins and Fails on August 21st. This show is called Wins and Fails because we go over all the wins and fails in the past week of marketing and business. As with last episode, I want to start by introducing you to a brand new character in the world of business. This is a crazy scientist named Joel Habener. See, he, in the 1970s, decided he wanted to work on something important as a medical researcher. And in the 1970s, nobody really cared about treating something as uncommon as obesity. It was a much lower percentage in America back in the 1970s. So he started working on something called diabetes. Didn't make much progress, and then eventually found some hormones, somatostatin and glucagon. Again, I'm no medical expert. He found them, and eventually he discovered a hormone called GLP-1 that regulates blood sugar. It's a big breakthrough, but unfortunately, they find out when they inject it in the patient, it doesn't reach the pancreas before dissolving. It's not very useful. Then the Gila monster gets involved, and another breakthrough is made. As 10 more years have passed, and John Ing in the 1990s, working at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in the Bronx, was looking for interesting new hormones, and he finds a variant of GLP-1 in the saliva of the Gila monster that lasts longer. But unfortunately, that's still not quite enough. It has to be injected twice a day. It's a little bit inconvenient, not good enough to solve the problem. Then a Swedish company comes along called Novo Nordisk with this stupid, not Swedish, I'm sorry. They're gonna hate me for this. A Nordic company from Denmark starts experimenting even further, and they start using a trick where they attach GLP-1 loosely to a blood protein to keep it stable in your circulation for 24 hours. Either way, they start testing it on rats, and they notice something. It does help with diabetes, but also the rats stop eating. Here in beautiful Denmark, they finally come out with a drug called Ozempic. Ozempic comes out and it's supposed to be a diabetes drug, but it's been figured out by both them and their patients that it's really good at weight loss. People take it and they start eating less and less. They can't really figure out why, because not only does it do that, but it regulates all sorts of other things. Like people have reported they gamble less while on it. General impulse control is increased while on this drug. It's weird. The FDA, when you're marketing a drug, is very specific that you have to market it for a specific purpose. This drug was designed and tested for one thing, diabetes. So they can't market it as a weight loss drug. But everybody's kind of realizing that's what it's really for. That and also addiction, like, nicotine, alcohol, gambling, skin picking, any compulsive behavior seems to be easier to handle and you do it less while on this weird drug. They start doing pretty sneaky little messages in their ads.
My Ozempic Trizone, I lowered my A1C, CV risk.
See, they say Ozempic is not a weight loss drug. It's a weird thing to randomly mention, but...
And lost some weight.
But the characters all talk about how they lose weight.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events, such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease. And you may lose weight. Adults lost up to 14...
Ozempic is not a weight loss drug. Either way, the word gets out. This is like the first miracle weight loss drug they've had in a very long time. And it goes viral on TikTok.
These days, it's the talk of TikTok.
I just start dropping pounds left and right.
Being on this medication has helped me tremendously with my health.
Turns out what happens when you stop taking it is all of the effects are undone. Again, I am no doctor, right? From what I can tell, there's a lot of studies being done on the side effects that aren't conclusive yet. That being said, what is conclusive is if you stop it, everything comes back, which means if you do decide to use it and it is a miracle cure, you still have to buy it for the rest of your life. Did you guys see Avatar 2? I'm sure you did. It's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. In Avatar 2, the main plot of the movie is that humanity will send armies to a different planet and conquer it for a chance of getting a little bit of a drug that reduces aging. Well, it turns out weight loss is even more valuable than that because the demand is off of the charts. And so first, this company passes Nestle to become one of the most valuable companies in Europe. Recently, Novo Nordisk is now worth more than the entire GDP of Denmark, which is the country it is in. Every every other good and service circulating within their entire country isn't worth as much as this company making money globally off of the demand for their weight loss drug. It is now, I believe, the most valuable company in Europe. Now, I want to bring a quick side story because I'm interested in business and history. And I want to look up other times in history this has happened where one company has been worth more than the GDP of the country it's in. And interestingly, it happened previously in a Nordic country with Nokia. Nokia in Finland was at one point by far the most valuable company in the country. And that, of course, ended extremely terribly. Right now, Denmark is celebrating this awesome influx of cash to their country. But of course, if you become too reliant on one company and they eventually have a downturn, disaster. But for now, amazing, interesting, good for them. Now, they aren't the only competitor in this space, because Eli Lilly, an American company, is not to be outdone, and they're not going to give all their profits for the American demand to reduce obesity to some Danish company. So an American company named Eli Lilly came out with their own version of this drug, Mounjaro. And this was their Super Bowl ad this year.
Mounjaro helps your body regulate blood sugar, and Mounjaro can help decrease how much food you eat.
What?
Plus, people taking Mounjaro lost up to 25 pounds.
It's just so funny, dude. This is just skirting the FDA regulations that require them to focus on diabetes. But this is clearly marketed to everybody as a weight loss drug. It's funny because this random ass commercial of a fucking stock footage family playing soccer ran during the fucking Super Bowl, because that is how much excited Eli Lilly is about the demand for this fucking product. But they spent the $8 million because the demand for this product is so high. Like they knew this would work. Long story short, it did. Eli Lilly is now the 10th largest company in the world, entirely off the backs of basically this one drug. Because the idea is, investors are seeing this. If this drug works and it reduces obesity affects 3/4 of all Americans, 62% of people worldwide or something like that. Once they start taking it, they have to take it forever. And it costs like $1,200 a month. The potential profits for a capture audience forever are absurd. 10th largest stock in the world, right behind Tesla and Berkshire Hathaway. And who is its prime user? Who is the celebrity who really helped skyrocket it to initial attention? You love him. You know him. Elon fucking Musk. A pharma company helping Elon Musk shed weight is now worth more than the entire economy of Denmark. Yes, see, it was found out when this totally real person, Eva McMillan, whose username is Eva's Tesla S Plaid, asked Elon Musk, "Hey, Elon Musk, what's your secret? You look awesome, fit, ripped, and healthy." It's got 33,000 likes. And he responded, fasting at 6:13 a.m. Then 12 hours later, he decided to fess up. After this already got 92,000 likes, he said, and Wegovy. Wegovy is the other version of this drug. It's the direct weight loss version. From a financial perspective, it's big money for healthcare companies. And it would be nice if there was a way, if it truly does work as intended, for it to be more regularly available. Because if it does work, my understanding is the money savings on food and health risks of obesity offset the cost. It sounds like maybe a good breakthrough by a scientist that could end up being exploited for massive financial gain for two companies. Until then, let's talk more about Elon Musk. You see, Elon Musk, as we know, has gone through a pretty public rebrand recently from Twitter to X. And we talked about it all. We've said everything there is to say. That being said, I wanted to check in. Almost a month ago now, they released the new brand package to all of the companies that advertise on Twitter. How many of them actually changed their Twitter logo to X? It turns out none of them. Of the top 25 advertisers, almost none. They said one Procter & Gamble had. Now, I wanted to check on that, so I went to Procter & Gamble's website, started clicking through all their brands. I checked Tide and Febreze, and both of them did not. So as far as I can tell, everybody is just pretending that it's still Twitter. And I think that's what I've seen in my regular life. It feels like he is like trying to force this down mid, and everyone's response is like, we're just going to pretend it didn't happen. Now, in other Elon news, I want to do a quick update, and I want to go through with you on trying to figure out what the fuck's been going on with Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Because my understanding was that this was done. Again, the fight was off because Elon Musk's mom canceled it. Then he said it was back on. Then he said he was going to do it in the Colosseum in Italy. Then Mark Zuckerberg's representative said this is the first time he'd ever heard of that. Then he said he's going to drive to Zuckerberg's house and live stream it so you can monitor our adventure in real time. And if we get lucky and Zuck, my tongue, actually answers the door, the fight is on. But then this didn't happen because it turns out Mark Zuckerberg wasn't even in the country. So he was going to drive to his house while live streaming and dox him and then try to fight. Again, that whole situation is a fail, but I want to give a bigger fail. HBO Max. Because HBO Max officially lost 2 million subscribers since changing their name to Max. HBO Max is a very big part of Discovery Warner Brothers. It's like their bet on the future. And it seems to me like we're seeing this type of situation over all of streaming, which is that a loss of subscribers and a loss of profitability is cutting into what made streaming good to begin with. The golden era of cheap streaming is coming to an end. And we're turning back to basically what we had before with cable. In fact, if you add up basically a package of the top 5 or 6 streaming services, you now get a package that costs $87, which is $4 more than the average cable TV package. See, now the packages have gotten more and more obtuse, and in many cases, you're still paying money more than you used to pay for ads. We really had a golden era of media where all these services were competing really hard to make a bunch of great shows, and they would give us really introductory good low prices, and then we just cancel them. Now they're realizing that they're not making any money. And I start to think we're getting really close to the time where the bottom feeders of this herd start dropping off, where the Peacocks and the Paramount Pluses and even possibly the HBO Maxes or the Maxes start realizing they're going to make more money by just selling their shows to Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus. And it's already started to happen. HBO has already started to realize that if they take they're calling them their like B-tier shows and sell them to Netflix, they can make money that they need to service their massive debt. And I think we're going to see more of that. That and plus password crackdowns. Netflix's password crackdown worked. I hate to say it to you. In another fail for this week, I have to say, is that the losing streak that started with Black Adam has continued in a massive way. You see, Black Adam was supposed to save the DC universe, a new era of power in the DC universe. It was a flop. Then Shazam 2 came out. Shazam 1 was a surprise hit. This was supposed to save the DC universe. It was a flop. Then The Flash, really troubled star of this movie, and they tried the best they could to hide it and focus on Batman and remarket it and hopefully save the DC universe. It was a flop. One of the biggest in history. But now, thank God, they've got their savior. Because as of a few days ago, Blue Beetle launched and has finally saved the DC universe by smashing all box office records, and it's a flop. It's a flop. It's a flop. It's a flop. But Barbie, if you haven't followed, is the only good thing that has happened to Warner Brothers in like 2 years. Barbie is literally the only surprise hit. It is the only thing that's outperformed. It is the only thing that is like keeping the company afloat. And even that is probably not going to be enough given the losses with HBO Max and the losses with The Flash, that even Barbie probably won't be able to save this company, which is why they are going so whole hog to make more Mattel films. You see, very, very unfortunately, Mattel is not the only toy company that has noticed the success of Barbie. And in fact, Hasbro is now getting into the game themselves. They just launched their own entertainment division, and now we are going to get movies based on Nerf, G.I. Joe, Play-Doh. There already is Transformers. And most importantly, Peppa Pig. So if you're ready for the live action Peppa Pig, probably paired against an Oppenheimer-like World War I film or something, so they can try to recapture the magic, Peppa Pig and Verdun or something. We will see as to their success, because it sounds like based on this, we're going to have nothing but toy movies for the next 5 years of our lives. Kind of like we had a Marvel era, we're going to have like a toy throwback era. Now, everybody already knows this story. This is an obvious fail. It turns out the guy in the Blindside was completely blindsided. by his real life family, who was not Sandra Bullock. It was a huge scam. They made money off his life. He wasn't even officially part of the family. They just kind of like made a conservatorship to take all of his profits. Also, in the movie, they portray him as like having a developmental disability or learning problems. And in fact, he's like a really smart guy and had none of that. They made it up to make the story seem better. But that's not the main point of the story. The main point of the story is how you can make money off of this. This story has gone viral on the news and TikTok, and everybody hates these guys. And the only way to make money off of this situation would have been to buy the Ja Morant rookie card. Because it turns out the wife and husband from the Blindside are in the background of that card and is now skyrocketed in value. Another way to make easy money a few weeks back that I talked about, an easy win, was to change your name legally to Subway, where you could change your name to Subway legally and get free sandwiches for life. No actual payment, just free sandwiches for life. Turns out a lot of people are desperate. They are desperate enough for free Subway sandwiches that they all signed up. So 10,000 people have officially offered to change their legal name to Subway to get free sandwiches for life. Now, the thing is, they're only going to pick one winner. Everybody else just kind of feels bad. And that one winner may not have very long to enjoy their free sandwiches, because at the same time as they're running this campaign about sandwiches for life, they're trying to sell the company. Now, if you guys know private equity that have bought up many, many businesses in American history, it very often ends with them going out of business. Generally, private equity buys up these, cash generating businesses, loads them full of debt, drastically reduces the quality. So any sandwiches you are getting are going to be worse, reduces employee training. So you might not get even a lifetime of sandwiches. You might get a few years of really bad sandwiches and then nothing. And your name is legally Subway. Speaking of Subways, let's go to New York. See, I talked about how New York has had 50% of its office space unoccupied ever since COVID. And so only the best offices are still getting people coming in. Everyone else is trying and succeeding at working from home. And downtown in major cities is a ghost town compared to what it used to be. And the mayor of New York is trying a perhaps unorthodox new method to change this and to fight this. We're going to bring the phrase living at work a whole new meaning, because they're going to turn all of these empty office buildings into houses. Vacant offices are being turned into 20,000 new housing units in Manhattan. And this could work. Instead of being a blight on the city, they become lived-in spaces, and it keeps local restaurants alive. I mean, it could work. It could also be a total disaster. Like, retrofitting them is going to be very expensive at a time when the office building owners don't have a lot of money to spend. So I'm kind of excited. I'm cautiously excited, but I don't know. But what I'm really excited about, this final story from this part of Wins and Fails, and that is the soldiers on the front line in Ukraine, I could not make this up if I tried, are apparently all addicted to one game. Can you guys guess what game? Genshin Impact? No. You see, Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail or RuneScape would make sense, because it would take your mind off the brutal, all-consuming war around you. Instead, as a way to cope, they have been playing World of Tanks. Which is like the most realistic World War II tank-based combat game. It's exactly what they're doing in real life. Nazar Vernihora, this guy, who went viral in a clip back in March for beating 4 Russian tanks with one of his own Ukrainian tanks. This clip went massively viral. He literally camps in a corner and blows up 4 tanks. Insane. He said he's addicted to the game. I mean, this real life is getting insane. The world is getting insane. However, bad news. See, his World of Tanks habit was thwarted when he lost his login information, and with it, access to his account. He lost all the tanks he unlocked in the game. And he said running into a well-armed Russian platoon had been pretty bad, but his setback in the game was a disaster. What do we live? Wait, where are we living? I feel like we live in a simulation, bro. This story blew me away. And that brings us to a different geopolitical conflict on a different side of the world. Not the war in Ukraine, but in fact, farther south in Africa. a continent rarely talked about in this show or in Western news in general. There was recently a major coup in the country of Niger, and nobody's really talking about it. The government of Niger was replaced. What was happening? Well, I don't know, because I'm a dumb American. So I asked the most trusted and respected reporter that I know, Doctorbattle, to investigate. I basically said, hey, look, I read a headline that there was a big coup in the country of Niger. Can you research this and make a short video explaining what the hell happened? I have not watched this. This is my reporter in the field, Doctorbattle, talking about the coup in Niger and explaining it to me. Let's see.
Thank you, Atrioc, for that wonderful introduction. When Atrioc first asked me to help him out with Marketing Monday, the very first thing I did was look up how to pronounce the name of the country that he wanted me to talk about.
Niger.
Excellent. Now we've got our pronunciation. Let's click on the link that Atrioc gave me to learn more about this. As you can see, all information about this is behind a paywall, so I'm going to have to improvise a little bit. Even though all the information is paywalled, I am still able to read the headline, and a lot of information can be extrapolated from that, so let's give it a go. As you can see, if you pause and zoom in on what I'm scrolling through here, this country has a lot of chickens and plenty of coops for them, so the fact that there's...
No, not coops! Not coops! Coup! Coup!
Another coup happening here isn't really much for news. It must have been a slow media day, but Atrioc gave me 5 minutes to fill, and I'm going to use them. First, I want to make amends with you, Atrioc.
I said max 5 minutes! I said max 5 minutes! I said cover this story in max 5 minutes!
On a recent video I made for you, I made fun of your inability to qualify on Hit Parade, even though it's one of the easiest races that has been in the game since day one.
I know how to play Hit Parade.
Truer words never spoken. But in case you did forget, one of your good friends, no, not me, a different good friend, decided to give us a crash course anyway. Okay. Let's check it out.
Let's see.
So, as you can see,
this is supposed to be about the coup in Niger, a really important geopolitical event. We are 90 seconds in, and you are showing me Ludwig playing Fall Guys.
Staying with the pack, paying attention to the obstacles, which is a very important aspect of this game in almost every single map I can think of. He gets pushed by the donuts, gets grabbed here, does a little bit of waiting, some patience goes a long way, and he quals. Wow. Sorry about the time I made fun of you for Hit Parade.
Nice qual, Atrioc. There he goes.
But hey, if you want to save this Ludwig clip so you can remember how to do Hit Parade, I wouldn't blame you. It's time for Doctorbattle.
You know what I want to do is I want to contact Quack and see if I can abort payment that I paid for this video. I would like to talk to Quack and see if we can get the money taken back from your account.
To get his very first wins and fails section on this channel. This run is on pace to get anywhere from a 615 to a 613, depending on how precisely he can hit some of these final tricks. And a lot of that is going to come down to BLJs. The first staircase comes up, boom, he hits it perfectly. You can't get a better one than that. He sets up for the second BLJ. A perfect BLJ here would be huge. And again, it's perfection. He hits this jump here, which is extremely tricky and only saved for world record attempts of short categories. He's going up here perfectly.
Wow, he is
the reason that I started covering this 0-star run this late into the run is because he made no mistakes worth talking about. All of this movement that I'm kind of glossing over is perfection. It's the human task. So now it's all come down to throws. Clean grab, releases Bowser after one turn, perfect. Catches him in the air. This is gonna be a little bit tense. Bowser bounces once, just like in the 16-star record, but it doesn't faze him. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it.
That didn't hit? Are you serious? That didn't fucking hit?
I'm giving a fail to Green Suiji on this week's Marketing Mondays Wins and Fails. Back to you, Atrioc.
I legitimately paid him for that. I want you guys to know I legitimately paid him for that. Money well spent. Pay him more. Thank you to my reporter in the field, Doctorbattle. The battle report. Holy shit, we'll call it the battle report. We'll never do it again, obviously. We will never do it again, but if we did, we'd call it the battle report. 100%, we will never bring that segment back for as long as we live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Marketing Monday Wins and Fails. I legitimately paid him for that. I want you guys to know I legitimately paid him for that. Money well spent. Pay him more. Thank you to my reporter in the field, Doctorbattle. The battle report. Holy shit, we'll call it the battle report. We'll never do it again, obviously. We will never do it again, but if we did, we'd call it the battle report. 100%, we will never bring that segment back for as long as we live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Marketing Monday Wins and Fails.